Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night. Very appreciative of everybody who's joining us and taking the time out of whatever your busy schedule might be, because we all know that October's is one of those months. Well, almost October is one of those months that it gets a little crazy for a lot of us. So definitely appreciate you spending time with us, and hopefully, hopefully we can help you out with a few things tonight.
Yeah, tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about. We've talked about branding and different aspects of it, and others have done different things with talking about branding. Jason Jan, I had some really good content on this that we've got on the DJNTV page. You guys could check that out. But I wanted to kind of focus tonight on more of the promotional side of our branding and how to utilize that in our shows and what that would be like. So we'll get to that topic. I want to kind of hit a couple of things before we get to that. First off, for those of you who kind of keep track, there's only two of us tonight. We're missing someone.
Yeah. Well,
That
I
guy,
don't know if we're missing
the
him.
other
He's
guy,
not here.
he's not here.
There-
Yes, that
There's a
other
difference.
that guy from Iowa. There we go. Yeah.
Jolly Green Giant?
Yes. No, it's the other guy. No, that's other Southern Minnesota. I think is where the Jolly Green Giant guy is.
Oh,
But yeah,
it's
Cubbie.
Midwest.
Yeah, pretty much all the same. It's all the same. Um, so Cubbie's gone tonight. He's actually involved with a local workshop. Mike Walters coming in. For those of you who have heard of Mike, he's a kind of a new guy in the industry. He's just coming on. He's done a few shows. And he's just trying to get his name out there.
Tell you, you would think that even as the new guy, they would give him a better seat at a wedding. But every time he's at a wedding, he's
Right
always placed behind that speaker.
behind the speaker. That's just it's sad.
He's,
I think we should really have a GoFundMe. Can we get enough money
can we
raised
get
for
Mike a better seat at
a
the
better
wedding?
seat at a wedding? That would be a great thing for him. But for tonight, Cubbie's picking Mike up, and I think it's tomorrow is when they're doing this. They've got some DJs that have gotten together and are doing a little workshop and such. And that kind of led. We're actually going to be multi-topicing. And Dan, we didn't talk about this because it's kind of fun sometimes to throw things at you. And for those of you who are like seeing that,
Nervous now.
yes, for those of you who are seeing Dan smile, you're like, is he actually smiling or is he like cringing? Is he got that pucker thing going? We'll find out. So our good friend Mike Lenstra threw out he's been kind of working through some different topics in his weekly articles. He's been talking a lot about the change of the industry, that there were at one time numerous people who were helping to raise the industry up is probably the best way to describe it. He's talking about people like Mark Farrell, Peter Mary, Scott Favor, people who were there to do the early encouraging, the early elevating of our services and helping to open people's eyes for the potential of what they could do to increase the business side of it and increase the performance side of it. And are still people doing things such as that, as we just alluded to with Mike Walter. He's doing a performance type of a workshop. But Mike had thrown out, Dan, and this is where I want to kind of start the discussion, is that the next generation. Who is that next generation of people who are going to be kind of raising that bar and giving a little bit of teaching, a little bit of motivation, a little bit of rah what have you to become that person. And I want to preface or add to that a little bit is that I think that in order to be in this kind of a leadership position and to be in this, that a person has to have a level of integrity and a level of credibility to it. Because we've both seen a lot of things. People come onto the scene and they're like, "Hey, I've got this training program, and you can for 17 payments of $39.99, you can buy this thing." And neither of you nor I have heard of these people. So
Mhm.
some of the fly by night people who are coming in, and I don't think we'll spend much time talking beyond that. But who out there is kind of leading the way for that next generation of people to elevate our industry?
I think it's kind of hard for you to be able to pinpoint this because when you mention some of the names of the people that have been doing this, and those of you that have been in the industry and kind of and aware, right? Like I'll be honest with you, like for the first 10 years of me being in this industry, I didn't know of anybody outside of my town.
Right.
So, but for those of you that have been kind of aware of kind of some of these history and these people, I don't see anybody necessarily doing that. I don't necessarily see anybody doing what, um, wanting to lead workshops, wanting to kind of raise the bar in that same light. Now, that might be because I'm kind of jaded and thinking like, oh, it needs to be in that style, and maybe over here is a different one. And so when I think about some of the people that are trying to push in a positive light, they're trying to share education about what's going on, and in that next generation piece that you're referring to, I think of people like Rachel Lynch. I think of people like Lou Paris. And there are others that fall into that realm where they're not holding workshops. They're not, um, going into a full on DVD, right, of content, but they're doing it in more smaller snippets. And it might be through quick videos, it might be through product reviews, and then sharing some extra piece, or it might be, through a you know web forum or Facebook group that they're also sharing and being actively involved in. So I see it more like there's more of that help from there. But I do kind of worry about that workshop piece that I feel is just there's not a new generation to replace it. At some point, Mike's going to get tired of traveling.
Hmm.
you know Mark and Rebecca, I love what they do, but a lot of times they're centered around a couple shows that are Midwest, or Western parts. So unless you're wanting to travel to them, it can kind of reduce what you're willing to do. So I think unless we get some other people that are trying to do those things, it's going to make a difference. Chris Washburn is another one that comes to mind. He's again trying to get out there and try to do things, but he's also trying to do his own thing. Like I don't know how. I don't know how the boy travels as much as he does, just in general. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, not monetarily wise, but just like he's always going somewhere. But he's another one that has really tried to kind of come along, and he's really led a lot of seminars from that standpoint. I would like to see some more people get into the workshop, the hands-on pieces that I feel need to be there,
Hmm.
but are probably often the hardest selling points.
And you mentioned, of course, I get the feelings you were talking about the workshops and such that there's that longing for the workshop, but maybe starting to read the handwriting on the wall that maybe workshops aren't long for this world. And I think that kind of ties back to a post Bill Herman put up a couple of week ago, whatever it was. And I think you had seen that one also, asking basically, are workshops dead? I'm paraphrasing to a point, but that was kind of, I think, the direction he was going with that, is that are people looking for workshops, or are they looking for something else? In what you were just discussing, you use Rachel and others that are giving content and sometimes very valuable tips and ideas in these little 30-second to 2-minute videos. Have we transitioned to a world in which the workshop is the dinosaur of yesterday, and we're moving to that those little things that are going to drive? And are they still driving? I mean, that was 5 years ago. That was a big thing. We were like, okay, we have to transition from longer format to shorter. Granted, we're doing a long format show tonight, but we decided, it was kind of a push to do that, and we saw a level of success with that for a while, but not so much anymore. Where are we at with this? What do you think?
I do feel like that is part of it, right? Everybody's wanting that quick in and out. They want the satisfaction
Satisfaction.
satisfaction, um of being able to have what they want and get what they want, and then go. The problem that I feel really kind of portrays in a lot of those, it's a lot of take, right? Rachel and them, and the ones that are doing the videos, they're giving. I'm not talking they're taking, but the ones that are consuming, they're taking, and they're not giving anything. And I don't mean they're not passing along knowledge. I mean they're not putting themselves out there, right? Like I can watch somebody. My family is really big into like the baking shows, right? I can watch 1,000 baking shows, and I can think I know what to do, and I can make it at my house, and it might look great, sound great, taste great, like the whole nine yards with whatever I'm doing. and I can make it look, and I go, it looks the same. But if I brought in one of those chefs to actually teach me what to do, that cake would be 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm.
I would learn that, yeah, it tasted okay, but it really didn't taste that great, right? But all I got was the take, right? And I might even have my friends that came to my party taste the cake and go, it's great, but I don't know better because I'm not having somebody critiquing myself and what I'm doing. And that's where I think those, whether it's a workshop or whether it's just being able to have that hands-on aspect that you're not going to get by watching just 30-second, 2-minute videos, I think makes a tremendous deal. The problem is we as a society have become, we just want that quick,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't think we allow it to translate over to our businesses.
And I think you make you did a great job there with that, Dan. Sticking with that cake, if you make cakes, you've been making cakes for years, and everyone loves your cakes, and then you've learned a little bit from the 2-minute videos, you make a little bit better cake, and now you've got friends who've had your old cake, and now they have this new one. They're like, yeah, this is good, boy, you've upped your game. But you made a great point. If you would have had that one-on-one time with the master chef, your cake could have been exponentially better for that, and you probably weren't even aware that there was a possibility of this over here. And that's I think we've run into this with our DJ businesses, or many things in life, whether it's the business side of it or if it's the performance side of it, is that we get a little bit better because we saw something, or we watched, and we watched someone make an announcement. We've taken a couple of ideas from it and added to our show. We're better, but we're not even close to the full potential of what we could have been.
I think even when you throw in like the shows and the seminars, so I think that's a better piece because it's a little bit, it's not a take and run. You have an opportunity to be there. You have an opportunity maybe to talk with some people afterwards and kind of get their 2 cents on it, and weigh in and out, and very similar to what we do here. And then you got the chat room. We got our YouTube, like people are chatting about what's going on. So there is more of a thought that goes into there. But even at that, I feel like without that class, I'll just call it a class rather than a workshop. Without that class, you're not really, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. And I do appreciate one thing that Chris has been doing lately. He's been putting some videos up of him doing his introductions, and he's been challenging people to kind of come back and post theirs as well. The downside is very few people are doing
Right.
that. But that's a step in that direction of like, listen, if you're not willing to do whatever, are you willing to learn what you're at least doing wrong so that you may be able to do it better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that idea of community growth is so important, that there's more people involved in such, and not that this isn't a commercial for a DJ show. That's not where we're headed with this. This is more of a getting one's thought process kind of in tune a little bit, because when, as you mentioned earlier, when we're sitting together, we can bounce ideas off each other. We can talk about, we can say, hey, do you think Chris's way of doing this is really, would that work for you? And well, yeah, I kind of like this aspect of it, but I was thinking this and tweaking and this, and then it's like, oh, and then if I tweak your idea with this, and the old adage, if I have an idea and Dan has an idea and we both share our ideas, now we both have two ideas compared to each having one. And I think that's a lot of things like that can happen in that space. And granted, in the chat room, nights like tonight, and then in the chill room, we can do some of that, not to the same level as sitting across the table, but there are some definite advantages to that. It's just not to the level that can be face to face. We got a nice crowd of folks coming here. Thank you guys for joining us this evening as we're kind of bouncing around here, and we'll be talking a little bit about the branding thing in just a couple. So one area I wanted to kind of hit when it comes to this next generation coming up and such, how important in this day is the integrity of a person, compared to the image of a person. Because we've got some people who have a celebrity status, we'll call it, out there, or have been really honing a celebrity type status or trying to build a celebrity status, and yet they don't have the chops. Maybe they don't have, or they don't run their business. What they say, how they say that they what they do, and what they actually do in real life are two completely different things. And we've seen this with different people in the industry who are basically out there trying to sell, and they're carpet bagging, and they're trying to sell snake oil. Using two very old references for those of you who are younger, you might have to look those up or ask grandma and grandpa. Is that a thing today? Do we evaluate the message, or I should say, do we evaluate the messenger, or are we just basically looking for a message that fits our immediate need for that moment?
I would go a step further. I think as a larger group, too many people are just looking for somebody that they think believes the way that they do.
Mm.
I think that's that's where we've kind of gotten. Yeah, there's too much on the celebrity status. There's too much on the wanting to be the name that's out there. And I'm not saying that whether they have the chops or not. That I think that I agree with you. I think there's some, but I think that kind of gets shown pretty quickly, that either you got it or you don't, as far as what you're doing. Like there's only so many times you can show the same mix and somebody goes, okay, they don't know anything else, they're just kind of doing it a different way. But integrity, I think, while I think it's the long game, right? I think that's also going to be where it's going to be. Like you can have that image and you can potentially go viral, but if you don't have the integrity to back it up, then you're going to be short lived.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be hearing about them in 5 years, right? Like they're not gonna be on the face, because they're gonna do something that is going to basically stab themselves in the back. Um, and I've seen that with too many. I'm just gonna say too many posts online.
Mm-hmm.
Asking for advice that really comes down to basically being completely self-serving, and how do I handle this? And it's like, dude, like look at what you're asking. If somebody was asking that of you, you would think they were being a jerk. So stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, we're cool. We got to do this. And we got to do that. And I think that also makes kind of the big difference. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of chase for the image. And I think it also, part of that is because of the viral aspect, because of wanting to be the social media popularity piece. And we've seen some of our DJ industry partners who have gotten some of that status. Nick Spinelli's videos got picked up by some
Yeah.
TV station in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, so like that kind of thing happens. And then you got people going, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And it's all a game to do that. And nothing against what Nick did. I think it was amazing that he was able to get that notice. Um, but along with that, if make sure that if you're going after the image, you've got that integrity to back it up, so that you don't cause a problem for yourself later, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an area where and you mentioned, of course, that people are looking for a message that connects with them more than the other, um, and that's we've seen that when, especially when people are like, hey, all weddings are this way, this is how they all are, and this is how all couples are. And every time someone shares an opinion that's similar to that opinion, these people know what they're talking about. And someone over there says, no, they do it this way in our area. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. The problem, I think, though, is it becomes that integrity part of it that really, you mentioned in 5 years they're gone, or they're off the scene, and yeah, that happens. We know we could probably off air make a list of 10 people that would fit that category that we've known and worked with over the years. It's just the part that is concerning to me is to see someone who comes in there and doesn't deserve the admiration that they're receiving because they haven't done, or they haven't been, or they haven't proven, or they've got, you go to a Facebook page and they're putting horrible things on there, or whatever, that's just not fitting of a professional image that we would like to convey in our leaders or industry icons. And that bothers me. It makes me the old guy, and it makes me want to yell at people to get off my grass. I mean, it is, but that is a huge frustration. Is that, as someone who's been in this industry as long as we have, and has put as much time and things into trying to raise the bar and work with people who have had that passion, to see it at times being abused or taken for granted, because now it becomes a money grab. I can do this, and if I can sell this, I can make money. And it's yeah, I can understand where Mike's coming from, Mike Lenstra, because he's seen that and he's been in that, but he's been quietly watching a lot of this for a long time, and I think that's where, reading between the lines, what he's where his frustration is lying at with this stuff.
Yeah, definitely would like to see. I would like to see some more people step up. I got this idea a few years ago, and my own personal reason I pulled back from it. But at one point, I thought about who is going to be that next workshop leader, right? Randy retired. Mark and Rebecca, like I said, they're still doing their workshops, but I don't think it's as many as they were. And even if it is, it's like, there's a big pocket of the country that doesn't get necessarily reached as often. So if somebody were to come alongside and kind of balance with that, again, Mike's only going to do it for who knows how long, but I mean, the guy looks like he could do it for another 80 years, but whether he wants to is a different
Yeah.
story. So who's going to step up? And so at one point I kind of like got this idea, like I wonder if I could approach some of these people of being, you know, having them be my mentor, have them teach me their workshop leading ways, and then develop a business model around being their successor.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing I kind of thought about at one point, but then I kind of evaluated for my family purposes that I didn't want to travel to
Mm-hmm.
the point that would be.
And that would be a
But
lot, a lot of travel for sure.
it would, and so I wonder who's going to step into that. I don't think as an industry we can. I mean, obviously we can have them go away, but as an industry, I kind of wonder what will happen. Will we become very disjointed? Will we become very much a mob-esque type of feel without having some leaders that step up in that type of capacity?
One thing that you mentioned that, that having them kind of mentor you and such. I think you'd come at things from a different perspective because of your teaching background. Then obviously there's the workshop and how to do and how many of those tools. But I think when it comes to actual teaching, and you and I both sat in many seminars and many of workshops where you can tell people who have a propensity or a talent in the teaching world, and then there's people who are just up there. They're smart, they know what they're doing, but they don't know how to teach it. They can go and they can go blah blah blah, throwing a lot of stuff out there, but to teach in a way that can be introducing an idea, building upon that idea, reinforcing that idea, and then in essence testing and moving on. That kind of a concept. I've referred to it in other videos as like a sermon. That's what pastors do when they're doing. They will have the giving it, and then they'll do the supporting and the teaching of it, and they'll come back to it, and they'll do that, and then they're not overwhelming. And I was watching a video from someone who was talking about a topic. It was outside of our industry, and they hit 47 different points, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's way way too much. But they've also not had a background in teaching and to be able to do that. And I wonder, these little 20-minute or 20-minute these 2-minute videos, you can't do that kind of stuff. Yes, you can go and present a little bit, but this is where that seminar, when it's a seminar by someone who can actually teach and work you through it, can be hugely valuable. A workshop where someone can actually teach and have the experience of hands-on and the testing, feedback, and the whole 10 yards, hugely valuable. Will we lose that aspect of it just because you cannot replicate that in a 2-minute, 5-minute video?
Yeah. I think without fail, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of that piece. 'Cause it's also how we want to be able to have it. How do we want to be able to enjoy it, to partake it, to take it in? Um, and it's yeah, it's that quick, it's that bites. I mean, even like think about our songs, right? Our songs are coming down. I think people would rather have the notoriety, the go viral piece than they would the, we'll say, leadership position, even if the leadership paid more,
Mm-hmm.
because this one's cooler.
Yeah,
This,
there is a cool factor.
this one's gonna get me someone buying me a drink. This one's gonna be like, I might pay some more bills.
Yeah, yeah, and when we circle back to the business videos, the business topics are generally not the most popular because they're not as fun.
They're not the toys.
They're not the toys. So let's kind of bounce into the branding a little bit. So back in the day, and this was in our early days, one of the things we thought was a great idea is to, in the whole process of getting our name out there and to be able to make it so that we're the first person they think of when it came to entertainment, was doing getting our name on things, promotional items. And as Dan is wearing one of the company shirts that we did. Woo! Look at there, he's repping.
On purpose.
I,
Oh yeah, this
I,
was on purpose tonight.
I didn't even bother to grab one. I came from a football game, so this is Dad from a football game. But we did a lot of that kind of stuff back in the day, and I guess I wanted to kind of start the discussion is that world of putting together promotional things. And I kind of talked to Cubbie about this last week a little bit to get his thoughts on it, because knowing he wouldn't be with us tonight. But is that world over for doing that kind of stuff? Just to give you, we did ink pens, we did T-shirts, we did tank tops because we were doing, it was summer. We did bumper stickers. We did. We had some cups that were plastic cups that were printed. Hats. There were some hats out there somewhere. And then I think we had a bag of some sort that we had printed. And we're talking over a 20-year period of the business. But are those days over?
They're not over. What's over is some of the products that were being used, right? I don't think there's not a lot of need for a pen with your information on it. I don't think that's going to stand out. I don't think somebody's going to go, oh, that's that DJ company. You know, T-shirts and that kind of thing. I think depending upon what it is, could kind of stick around, but it's got to. I mean, you got to think about it. It's got to be something that they're going to want to keep around, and isn't just going to be the Saturday, work in the yard shirt
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. But I think there's still some place for it, right? We have branding on just about everything. Like that was kind of the discussion a few years ago when, okay, we're not going to put any signs up at our wedding, but can we put our name on our laptop, right? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
that okay? And it came down to the question of like, well, like if you don't, there's a brand there, right? It's whatever your computer brand is. It's, your speakers have their brand logo on it. Why can't you have, your name on something? So like that's where some of that mentality comes from. I don't think it's lost. I think it's just what it's on needs to be different than what it was 10 years ago, especially 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a laptop thing. That actually, Dan, I'm going to actually send you a link here. And if you would open up and share the screen here. And I hadn't planned to show this, but it should be to your messenger there.
Yep.
So you mentioned the laptop thing, and that was a discussion, and then this came up whenever you can.
Yeah, I don't know if this is what you meant or not, but
Yep, that's
okay.
So this is actually something, ironically, That is my controller you're looking at. Michael has been getting into doing printing out these 3D printing these little name placards and things, and specifically that little QR code that you see on the side of there. Um, that's probably the closest to branding I think I've been doing in the last. And it's interesting at our weddings. Um, that little QR code I think's been probably scanned about a dozen times at the last two weddings.
Huh.
Anyway, just kind of but that that has been the type of branding, the laptop having a logo there, the kind of things Michael's been working on here. And it's a change from what we did. And I don't know if you can shut that down now, Dan. But that was I'll put the link in the chat, by the way, so you guys can, if you want to go out and check that out. That's something he's been doing, and he's been sending those things literally around the world. It's a good thing he's got a dad who works in the post office, because Saturday mornings he's like, "Okay, Dad, here's a bunch of them. Go." Okay. To the mail I go. Anyway, but have we changed where the branding we use is going to be more of a on-site while they're there type of thing over the ink pens? Although when you say that the ink pens don't work here, I've got a Taekwondo Lakes Area Taekwondo ink pen right here at my desk that I had actually no idea where it came from until I just looked at it. If that's telling.
Um, I don't. I don't think the at the event piece is going to replace some of the outside pieces, right? Because um let's put some things into perspective. You decide to do you decide to do a wedding. You've got one of those placards on your thing. The people at their event may have seen it, may not have, especially given the size, right? Now, I'm not saying we need to have some huge sign then, because then that's a different
Mm-hmm.
situation. But they may have seen it, they may not have. So if you got, let's say you got 150 people, maybe 75 saw it. How many scan it? You said, maybe a dozen times. So it, not to say you shouldn't do it, but I don't think it's going to be that effective. Now you put that product of whatever it is into a couple people's hands, especially clients that you've had. Now they become sellers for two reasons. Because one, if you give them something that they would want to use and it has your thing on it, somebody may ask them, like, where did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, I heard of them. Why do you have a Yeti with their logo on it? Like, why are you using that for your coffee cup? Like, whatever might be the case. And it potentially opens the case or opens up the door. Whereas I don't know if it would necessarily come up just in general conversation unless there was an immediate need.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel that outside of the event, it opens up the door to potentially have more positive reproductions from it,
Mm-hmm.
um, than to just say I'm only going to do it at the event. I'm not going to do it anywhere else.
Sure. Yeah, I could
I would
definitely
also say, okay.
go. Yeah, you also say go finish that.
I was going to also say that it's obviously also important on where you put it. So one of the things that I was very diligent about, and cognizant of what I was doing when I built the old booth that I had, my laptop stand was right there over the one corner of the booth, so that when somebody came and took a picture of the couple, because I put their engagement photo on the front, and oh, it's so cute, they got a monogram, yay, whatever, and they would take a picture. Majority of the people did not zoom in far enough that it was only that. They were getting the booth, they were getting my laptop, venues were getting my laptop, they were getting that name, and it was being shared out.
Mm-hmm.
So, not just make sure you have your brand, but make sure you're aware of where you're putting it so that the right people are seeing it.
Definitely, definitely. You mentioned the Yeti, and Day mentioned still having a Yeti from DJX last year. That was one of the talking again to Cubbie is that he has over the years done different things. Cubbie's one of these people who like to um, show his appreciation, and he will show appreciation in different cases with candy, a box of chocolates, type of things like that. He's thoughtful like that. Not like me, where I'll be like, "Oh, it was your birthday last week. Oh well, I'll get you next year." Yeah, that's pretty much the way most of us are, but not Cubbie. But he mentioned that if he's going to be doing something like that, especially when we were talking about venues and how to utilize something in a branding world that would get you some traction in venues, and he came up with the Yeti is the type of thing that he would be doing, because they can be branded, they can sit on the desk, and people can have their coffee or whatever in that, and then it's like, oh, look at there's Cubbie's DJ company extraordinaire, that kind of thing. Definitely something, because it kind of circles back to, you mentioned pens are dead. T-shirts may or may not, but trying to find something that would work and do that it's not a cheap thing anymore. For one thing, to find something that's going to last and not be thrown away, or the days of just having something, it's like, oh look, I could use an ink pen, and people would actually use it and keep it. Those are kind of probably far from yeah.
I used to have branded flash drives
Mm-hmm.
that I would use for my photo booth pictures. So they would get a flash drive when it was at the end of the night, and it had my logo on it. I did that for two reasons. One, to make it easier for them, right? Because when you got 20 flash drives in your desk drawer, it's like, how do I know which one has that on it? So it kind of was twofold. But I put my logo on them for the longest time, and it worked. It worked well. The thing you got to keep in mind though, with anything that you're going to give out, is the brand's only going to last as long as the product does. So if you're like, well, I'm only going to spend this because I don't want to drop a lot of money, does that mean you're going to buy a cheap product, which is going to break, and then therefore it's going to be in the trash, and then it's wasted money? So
Mm-hmm.
it's better to spend a little extra and give it to the right client than it is to mass produce and just send it to anywhere.
And we were kind of doing okay, so what's some of the negative things about getting printed material, investing your money into the promotional material like that, and the outdated quickly, which to the thumb drive idea. What size was that thumb drive? Do you remember?
Oh, I think it was
Oh,
4 gigabytes.
4 gigs. So that was decent size. It would be able to handle quite a bit of music and such. But yeah, the early ones that we were getting from trade shows, which I don't know if I have a trade show one here, 250 meg,
Yeah,
or the
200.
very very
I think
first
I had
ones.
one that was 128 megabyte.
Yeah,
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 like
yeah. They were just tiny little things, and gosh, I can't believe I don't have. But all the companies, when you go to the trade shows there for a while, were giving those things out. 64, 128. When I got the first one, that was 256. It's like, wow, I can reformat this, and woohoo, I can actually utilize it. But truthfully, one of the things, yeah, there you go. You have one right there.
there it is.
Excellent. Yeah, the outdated the technology, because well, in another couple of years we'll all be talking about USB-C connections, and there's definitely a lot of potential issues, a lot of different things with that. So um there was another aspect of this I wanted to customizing things. So let's say that we like the idea of a Yeti, that we want to give our couples a Yeti as a thank you gift type of a thing. And we can customize those, because we can have them laser etched, and we could have Bobby and Susie's wedding, and thanks from Dan Carpenter, DJ extraordinaire, East Coast version. Um, putting is there a point in time when your person is doing customizing and such, would that help the process? Would it change the process, meaning that change the level of success you may have from future work, or future sales, or future branding, positive thingies? Is it going to help you your business?
I think depending upon the level of personalization we're talking about, right? If you just said, thanks so much for having me at your wedding, love Dan. and with the company name, no. Like I don't foresee that necessarily stepping it up. Where I think it's going to make a big difference, um, you know, exactly. Thanks, Bobby and Susie. Appreciate you. Enjoy this. But I don't know. Like in my own viewpoint, I think that's going a bit far. I don't think it needs to be there. I think it needs to be more practical than it needs to have that personalization, right? Like if you give them a Yeti cup and they don't have any use for a Yeti cup, then it doesn't matter if you wrote Bobby and Susie on it or whether you just plastered your logo on it and gave it to them. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
not suddenly going to use it if they don't have a need for it. And the only thing that's going to make me make a little bit of a difference is they're also not going to give it away if it's got their names on it.
That's true.
So, not saying you want them to necessarily give away the gift that you gave them, but if they have no need for it and their names are on it, it's going in the trash. If you have your logo on it and they don't need it, they're potentially going to give it to somebody else or maybe donate it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in my viewpoint, that's not wasted money. It might be wasted branding money. That's a different story, but it's not going to be the wasted money because somebody's going to make use of this product somewhere down the road.
Sure.
But if it goes in the trash, nobody's getting any use out of that.
Mm-hmm. Which I think, ink pens fit into that category. The printed post-it pads, I remember a couple of companies did those and such, and it was a neat idea. But there's many people who, until I went to work in a post office, I bet I hadn't used a post-it note in, let's say I haven't used 10 post-it notes in 5 years. It just wasn't something. I used to eat those things for breakfast. It was almost, but not anymore. Those times are over. So I think the idea of having something that has a little bit of longevity definitely is advantageous. Um, let's talk a little bit about professionalism when it comes to this world. You mentioned the having the logo on there, and it would be probably the best option of the things with the Yeti handing that out. But is there concern about how you'd be perceived professionally from the items that you choose, and where would that concern be?
Well, I mean, I mentioned this kind of earlier, right? If you're pulling up and using chintzy products, it's going to look like you were just trying to pass along a gift and really didn't put any effort or any investment into it. So I don't think it's suddenly going to, somebody who's wedding you completely, rocked is suddenly going to go, oh, this is a crappy DJ because look at the gift he gave me. Like, I don't think it's going to be that aspect, but just in general terms, it's like, again, if you're putting cheapness out there, that's the message that you're going to be giving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would say, we talked about integrity earlier also, right? Like, there's a lot of products that you can put your logo on that we'll just say you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Um like, whether you agreed, there was there's been some companies at DJX, right? Some of the weed companies
Mm-hmm.
we'll mention. Um Whether you decide to partake or not, that's not a decision I'm talking about. But if you put your logo on that, you potentially are endorsing it, we'll say. And if you have people who might want you as a client going, well, wait a minute, does this mean that they do what? It just opens a different can of worms, right? Like, so I would, definitely think about the integrity being extremely middle of the road on anything that you're doing, just so that you're not alienating anybody. Um, or at the very least, if you are going to go niche with it, make sure it's something that fits within your ideal client.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um,
Be very
that'd be
intentional.
the only thing you'd be really careful. Exactly, be
Mm-hmm.
very intentional with it.
Intentional with that. Because yeah, as you're kind of talking about that, I can think of numerous companies out there that have gone to that kind of a boutique world and would want to have this type of thing, which would be construed as a more elegant, more technical or whatever. So something that would fit their brand much more than just a regular blue ink pen. But it probably wouldn't work for other people. One last area that hadn't even thought of, and too terribly much when it comes we're living in a world now, of course, where there's a much more concern about environmental issues, and people worried about the disposable. Ironically, things like straws, which Dan just demonstrated for us. There's definitely people who are very concerned about this. When we went to see Brian Red a couple of years ago, we went to a restaurant that had recently just stopped offering straws because of environmental concerns in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You know, but hey, whatever. Um, is that something that would really feed into this? I mean, is that something a person should keep in mind, or is it just one of those little things that there might, if it offends somebody, it does. So be it.
I guess it depends upon what you're doing with it, right? Is the product that you're giving completely disposable? If that's the case, I also kind of wonder what you're doing with the brand idea. I mean, radio stations, right? Like for years used to put their logos all over balloons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people were necessarily concerned about that aspect. And even to this day, and even that might still do that, I don't think they're necessarily concerned about it. But I don't know. In my viewpoint, I don't see it as like, unless you're purposely doing something that's going to fill the landfills, I don't foresee it being that great of a negative um, for somebody. But I could be wrong. Somebody could totally disagree with me. If you are, throw it in the chat.
Where I was kind of envisioning is, you mentioned balloons, and that was actually one of the areas that was a big thing. But today, where I see more often than not is water bottles that have sometimes you'll see it. Thanks for coming to Bobby and Susie's wedding. You've seen those, and there's times where companies have, they go through like local small town parades and are handing out a water bottle, and this is from Bill's insurance agency on the corner, and they've got the custom printed label and such, and with a water bottle, and of course that means it's a plastic single use water bottle that once they drink it, it becomes garbage. And do things like that. Are we to the point where that matters yet, or are we still, where that's still a fair game and a somewhat decent idea because it's something people will use most likely?
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like people are going to use it. People are going to take it. And again, I could be completely wrong in this, but if I'm sitting along a parade route and I have somebody that comes up and gives me a bottle of water, like normally I have to buy that from the vendor that's walking the parade route, and I'm going to pay $10 for that one bottle, right? Like so, this gives me, I'm going to see it more as the gift of the water or the gift of the drink than I am that somebody handed me a plastic water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece to that kind of like comes into play is that those are recyclable, right? Like so, you are handling something that it can be disposed of in a responsible way. Um, so that's, I don't know. That's the thought that kind of comes to my mind
Mm-hmm.
with it, more so than that'd be a negative light. I don't. Again, at a wedding. Thanks for coming to Bobby and Susie's wedding. Um, again, I'd see it as them giving a drink
Mm-hmm.
as people are waiting for the ceremony to start.
And again, everything we're kind of talking about with these things is to kind of help you guys think through these processes. If you've been wondering about getting ink pens, well, you're kind of getting our thoughts on it. If you've been wondering about doing X, Y, or Z, you're getting some thoughts on it. Things to stew on a little bit before you make the decision. Because one of the big things with any promotional materials is that they're decent ones are not cheap. You're going to be
Mm.
spending, a decent item that you're going to give to somebody could be 5, it could be 50, depending upon what you're doing and at what level you're getting. So making a decision on a quality product that's going to be able to cover as many of the bases that we've been talking about is really, really quite critical.
But
Okay.
I would say the one thing to keep in mind is branding doesn't work if you don't do it.
That's true.
Like as much as we talked about the different ins and outs and thinking about it, if you're not doing anything, then it's not getting out there.
Yeah.
You're relying on hope on something else other than your branding. So um look for ways, big, small, right? we didn't talk about, putting it on your vehicle, but there's another option, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have your vehicle logoed and stuff like that. But keep in mind, another, not don't even take around the whole, well, like somebody could break into my vehicle. Think about how some of you drive. And if your business is plastered on the side of that, they know exactly who to call. They know exactly who to, that jerk over there at John Young Entertainment, he like cut me off. Um, that's the kind of thing you got to think about. So just be aware that if your branding is on something, they're, make sure it's in a positive light as much as possible.
So this will be the kind of last thought. We'll wrap here, Dan. With that, I was out running the other morning, and there was a guy, construction company that had a trailer there, and it just so happened in my route that I got to run all the way around the trailer, around the block there, so I could see all four sides of it. One side, it would be if I am the trailer, it would be the left side. So it was the driver's side, all lettered and looked beautiful, and had a very easy to read, company name and such. Looked great. Front of the trailer, nothing, which isn't too surprising because you wouldn't put anything. The other side, completely empty. Thought that was kind of odd. The back side, completely empty. Well, curious person here had to find out why. So the guy was there. It's like, why did you only have one side of your trailer done? Sides back maybe. He goes, well, if I'm down the freeway and somebody passes me, they're going to see my thing. They're going to see my logo as they go by and say, "Oh yeah, look at there. There's Bobby's construction." If I'm in a hurry and I pass them and they're like, "Who in the heck is this jerk that's driving dangerously?" They'll see this white trailer go by. It's like, yeah, see. Sometimes there's logic to even the weirdest things in the world. So
There we go. So there you go. There's your workaround, everybody.
yeah,
Put it only on the left side of the
only
vehicle.
on the left side. Yeah, that's crazy. So we're just about to the end of football season, and I was hoping to be able to have more time for getting the videos and everything lined up here. But this fall with school and football and activities and things, it's been crazy. So we're just about to the end of that season, and then we'll be getting back into some of the Tuesday night live shows, and then of course some of the other videos that we drop during the week will be coming back here for the cold months, which will make it a lot easier than trying to do it. Going from, as Dan just went through his schedule beforehand, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got 37 minutes. I'm going to be sleeping this week, but they're not all together. So it'll be 7 minutes, 15 minutes." 7 minutes.
No, one day is 36.
Oh,
The other 4 days are about 15
seconds
each.
apiece. Yeah, there you go. So, well, let's wrap things up, Dan. And you guys, DJNTV.com/chill. The crew is going to be in there recording a show tonight. I think Eric's got he's got the magic button to get things going, and they'll be headed there in just a few minutes. So, DJNTV.com/chill, and have a good evening with that.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a few things of what not to do from our mistakes, or some things to maybe look forward to going forward. But we appreciate you. Have yourself a good one. We'll see you next time.
Everybody.